4 or 5 years old, I can remember vividly my mom telling me to go get her nerve pills, you know, out of her purse that was hanging on the back of the door. So I'd go get the nerve pills and I'd bring her the nerve pill, she'd take it, and you know, after a few years, you start to notice, well, you start to think about nerve pills, nerve pills. And then she seemed to call me, she took those nerve pills.
Wow.
So when I was 11 years old, I wanted to calm down, and I didn't know how to. So I'd bring my mom her nerve pill, I would walk away, and I would take one myself
Wow.
to escape caring so much, feeling so much, to escape the chaotic nature of what we were living through.
Okay,
So that was the beginning when I realized that nerve pills calm the nerves.
calm down.
Pretty young age to do that. I can't say that I'm proud of admitting to that, but I have to say that I knew not what else to do. I knew nothing else that I could do. So as we were all growing up, there was always those kids who would say, let's party. Let's go party. I want to party. I've never used the word party in my life. I've never taken any substance for a party. I have taken these substances over the years, on and off, to numb myself of the ghosts, the wraiths that were still with me, and from my youth.
Now you,
So
it's like you know them a lot more now.
I needed, everything.
Okay. You
It was
see,
essentially
even the
just
position of
self-medication.
taking some out here, removing the back,
One of those get
making
me
it
out
more,
of here
it kind of,
moments, and you know, where do you want to escape from? It is your own brain, your own head.
it could.
How often have you used substances throughout your life?
Having started with my mother's nerve pills at 11, of course, you know, that's around the age that you're introduced to marijuana.
That's the breast.
You're introduced to, and also depending on where you're living and who you're associating with, and who's around the neighborhood. I wasn't shy to try a substance for if the effect of it would
Try to see how I would adjust
maybe
everything.
even
So I gotta
take a
put
bit
that
more
breast
of
there,
the edge off.
because then I could.
So I started
So
at
I put
11,
that there.
and
Now I
I
keep
mean,
that there.
I even mentioned this in an interview in TV Guide, if anyone remembers TV Guide, in 1989, where I was asked by the journalist
Yeah, I
why
remember TV Guy.
I believed that kids who were watching the show, 21 Jump Street, about police officers in school undercover cops, but as students. I was asked why these kids or whoever should believe me or trust me or listen to me, and I said, look, I could, because I've experienced it, and I can tell them that there is no future in it, that there's nothing but a kind of a postponing of the inevitable. That one day you're going to have to face those feelings. One day you will meet those, let's call them demons, from your youth. So I was straight up, open and honest at that time in a very, I mean, the TV guide was
that leg, the way, the
it was right at the register when you checked out of the grocery store. It was like the most popular thing, and it was a very straight little magazine. But I told them I'd pretty much done all the drugs that I was aware of by the time I was 15 years old, and which was true. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I continued into that, forest of possibilities with regard to substances. I wasn't dropping acid every 5 minutes. I wasn't. There were many years that I didn't touch a substance and no drugs. There were many years that I didn't have a drink. So it's, as I said, it's never been for the sort of party effect. It's been for trying to
cope,
numb the things inside that have that can plague someone's who's experienced trauma. But the characterization
well said, it's so true.
Of the characterization of my substance, quote unquote, substance abuse, that's been delivered by Ms. Heard is
Better.
is grossly embellished,
All this.
and I'm sorry to say, but
Little.
a lot of it is it's just plainly false. I think that it was easy. It was an easy. I think it was an easy target for her to hit, because once you've trusted somebody for a certain amount of years and you've told them all the secrets of your life, that information then of course can be used against you, especially if it's taken to a point that is teetering on impossible, and teeters over impossible, in fact, at times. It's so, I
She lost.
am not
You lost.
some maniac who needs to be high or loaded all the time. In fact, in Australia, from before Australia and in Australia, I had been off off of alcohol for, I believe it was about 18 months.
Mr. Depp, you've mentioned some periods of sobriety throughout your life. How many would you estimate you've had?
Quite a number. On various films, you see. I suppose, I guess maybe by example, if anyone's, well, if you're familiar with Hunter Thompson's book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which I was lucky enough to make into a film with Terry Gilliam. The film calls for myself and my attorney to be absolutely blotto out of our heads constantly throughout the film. And most people just assume that, well, they just got wasted and they filmed them. There would have been no way you couldn't act that. You couldn't make that film with two actors who were loaded. There would be no way. And then to the other extreme, Donnie Brasco, a film that I made about an FBI agent. I had to go into a training regime where I had to eat 5 meals a day, drink 5 shakes a day, these protein shakes per day, work out 3 to 4 hours a day because I had to gain 20 to 30 pounds of muscle. There was certainly no abuse of substances then. There's been no abuse of substances on film sets. There's been no moments where I would have been considered out of control. Never. In fact, it's not been mentioned. I'm sure they don't want to mention it, but I remember that because when I was with Miss Earth and her friends, and we were all drinking wine, and I smoking marijuana. They used to tease me because of what they said was a ludicrous tolerance, because I never appeared loaded or high or any of that. Even if I felt a little spinny, no one would have ever known.
Mr. Depp, is there any substance that you've ever been addicted to?
Yes.
And what is that?
Roxycodone, or Roxycontin, which is it's an opiate. It's I think oxycodone has the opiate and then some pain like paracetamol or something, and then the Roxys are just the opiate, as far as I remember. And when I was working on Pirates 4, and there was a scene in which I had to grab this large gold and red, stately gilt chair, pick it up and chuck it out this big giant window. And so I did it, and as I swung around to throw the chair out the window, I felt this immediate electricity from the bottom of my spine down my left leg.
Shit.
And it was like an electricity that burned. So I had obviously it was sciatica, so I had obviously pinched something, done something.
Mhm.
So I saw a chiropractor or a kine or whatever. I saw chiropractors and to no avail. Then I saw a doctor and the only pain medication that she recommended and prescribed to me was Roxycodone. And there was a part of me that was a little bit worried, just in the sense that I know I've witnessed friends and people over the years who have who've had problems with heroin, you know, and I didn't want to get bit by that snake, and I started taking the Roxys, and I was bit by the snake, and then before you know it, that monkey is on your back to stay. And it's not like you take those pills to get high. You take them to, once the addiction has grabbed hold of you, you're not taking those pills to get high. You're taking those pills to get well, or to get better. Because if you're without the pill, your body will start to go into various you'll withdrawals, and so I was on the Roxy's for a number of years, 4 or 5 years, I think, maybe more, I don't know, but the key was that if you take 2, you will be what they call on the knot. You will be that. You will just drop into sleep.
So I can do the
So,
water, do this in blue.
Yes, I didn't like being dependent
Let me see.
on these pills. I didn't like being dependent on a drug that you take only so you wouldn't get withdrawals. That's what it becomes. It's like a junkie. The reason why so many, well, now there's a huge fentanyl problem, but the reason why junkies generally, why they end up overdosing, is because they're looking for the first high again. And you don't get that. You don't get your first high again. So what do? You up the stakes and you put more, you take more. And that's what makes that's what makes things go dark for them. Because they overestimated the amount that their body could tolerate, and they go blue and they die. So, yeah, didn't want that.
Mr. Depp, do you have an estimate as to what year you started taking the opiates that you just described?
When 2000, or excuse me, it was Pirates. Bless you.
Wow.
4, I believe. Pirates 4. No, it was Pirates 4. Rob Marshall directed it. I don't know what year that was. maybe. I actually don't, I have no idea what year that was.
Was it before you were in a relationship with Miss Heard?
Yes. I believe so.
And you didn't detox, and you detoxed from those opiates during your relationship with Miss Heard, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, so of course, yes, so they must have, yeah, they did come around prior to my meeting Miss Heard.
After you detoxed from the opiates, have you ever taken any opiates ever again?
No, I can't. That's, no. Once you've been bit, you'll be bit again. So, no, with any, I mean, even with my finger, I think that it was like Motrin 800, you know, but no opiates. No, I've not taken an opiate since, and I won't unless I plan on going through the hell of the pure horror of detoxing, of coming off those drugs. No.
That's a long
Mr.
no.
Depp, I'd like to now turn to your relationship with Miss Heard. Can you please tell the jury how you met Miss Heard?
Mm-hmm. 2000, in around 2008, Hunter Thompson and I were going through some of his manuscripts of his books that had been published, and then I found this manuscript in one of his boxes, and it was called The Rum Diary, and I had heard about it, and I knew it was what they called his long-lost novel, in fact, the only novel he ever wrote.
Okay.
And I showed it to him, and Hunter was shocked. Oh my God, that's where it is, you know. And so he said, read me some. So I started reading this to him, and he said, this is a movie, you know. We must produce this together. And, you know, he got all excited about the idea of doing that. So we went right into it. And we started to set up meetings to get money, financing to develop the project. And we finally ended up getting the money to develop the project and to make the film. Hunter, from his own dilemmas in his life, committed suicide, but having had long talks with him, I knew every angle of the book, but I knew every angle of the film that he wanted, which was going to be a bit different than the book. And Bruce Robinson, who was a great writer-director, directed a film called Whitnell and I, How to Get Ahead in Advertising, was the one director that Hunter and I talked about. And so I went to Bruce, who was a friend of mine, and I ripped him out of retirement because he never wanted to direct another film again. I pulled him out of retirement after 27 years, and he agreed to write the screenplay and direct the film, and we proceeded. During the auditioning process,
Oh shit, there it goes.
Bruce was, before that, Hunter had very specific ideas of what these characters should be. Bruce had been auditioning girls or women for the role of Chenault in the film. And there were this sort of, the starlets that were up and coming, and, or there were some that were well-known, and things of that nature. But